Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Seibert, Managing Editor at GovCIO Media and Research. And joining me today is Keith Nelson, Senior Strategist for the Public Sector with OpenText. Keith, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Sarah. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we are tuning in from the Health IT Summit. We're hearing a mix of public and private sector viewpoints on innovation in that space, and you have deep experience there. So could you tell us a bit more about your background?
Yeah, I am a former government CIO at the federal level, and I think that there's real value in having former feds work in private sector because they tend to penetrate some of the confusion of what's really going on in the government side. And on the other hand, being in the private sector is really exciting to bring some really modern technology to bear. Some of the stuff I saw in government was a little bit behind the times, and that still exists with legacy software, and it's great to help modernize and move us into the future.
Right. One of the big talking points we've heard about today is AI. Shocking.
Yeah.
But as we talk about AI readiness, preparing data for AI systems, what is your take on organizing that information?
I love that phrase, AI readiness, because it's a little bit like jumping into the deep end in a swimming pool. You really need to learn to swim in the shallow end first and get familiar with it before you jump into that harder situation. And if your data is disorganized, which it really tends to be, and even if you have a shop that uses a lot of automation with SAP or Salesforce, then you find but there's still critical, vital information that might be in a SharePoint file, or it might be in your email, or it might be somewhere else. And it's scattered and siloed. And so in order to really get AI ready, you want to bundle and bind that information together. You want to categorize it so that when you aim an AI tool at it, you generate legitimate insights and you don't get something that's really limited to a particular set of data.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what is your advice to agencies? How can they strengthen their content and data management practices to maximize that value?
Yeah. When you're talking about compliance, I think public sector and government is about the most regulated and compliant-oriented industry, with possible exception of healthcare.
Yeah. So federal healthcare.
So if you get federal and healthcare and you put them together, you have to be the most regulated environment that exists. And so it's important to make sure that your information is protected, secure, you're ensuring privacy. You're also, not storing it in the wrong way. And so what we've helped do at OpenText is we've built something we call zero-click compliance. Because if you're talking about clinicians, researchers, medical professionals, scientists, they're not electronic record keepers, nor do they want to be. And so if you're putting a burden on them to file things a certain way or tag things a certain way, it's inevitably going to be off point. And so we've kind of built a system where all they have to do is save their work, and it's automatically compliant. It knows when to archive. It knows how to protect it against all the HIPAA and government requirements. And we think that is a recipe for success. It's much easier to use, and it's much, it's a happier government audience, employees, when they do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's really exciting. So you kind of led into this, but what are some of the safeguards that are necessary to ensure compliance when managing medical data, and then especially as we talk about AI and cloud?
Yeah. Look, we talked about AI you got to prepare your information before you use AI. The other thing that we see, people are very thirsty for AI, but it slows them down a little bit when they feel like, oh, I have to put my really sensitive, really high security data in the cloud.
Right.
And some agencies just aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
And so we understand that at OpenText, and we realize we have AI tools that can go anywhere they feel comfortable. So if you want to put it in the cloud, we have that. Or if you want to put it on-prem and keep your data, in your own environment and not, put it in the cloud, we can manage that too. And it's really, we're still kind of on this AI journey. Some agencies are a little more leaning forward, and some are really trying to explore a little bit. We do see a lot of early stage use cases being kind of back office, which tells me, oh, they're thinking about what if it goes wrong? Well, I'll do an HR, process automation. I'll do some procurement stuff. That way, if something goes south, very few people will know.
Right.
The real value of AI is pushing out that, working with your constituents, working with the public. And we think an on-premise AI engine can help them kind of make that leap.
Right, that makes sense. And so how can federal, state, and local governments balance some of these security aspects with delivering a tailored, effective communications strategy to constituents?
Yeah, Sarah, this is what we hear a lot when we talk about at all levels, federal, state, and local. Health and human services organizations, they need to communicate a lot with their constituents. And a lot of what they do today tends to be manual. Maybe they pull some information from this system, pull some from that, try to cobble together a message, and then put a blast out there. We have a tool, OpenText, best in class, that can automatically pull from a variety of resources, of inputs, lock down the message, and give the sender the ability to tweak it a little bit. Maybe there's an upcoming webinar or some kind of a message they want to get across, a new regulation. They change that up, and then they can send it, whether it's email or text or WhatsApp, however they're communicating with their constituents at the high volumes, very tailored, very automated, and less opportunity for non-compliance, which is a big thing.
Right. That makes sense. And that's super cool. So to close this out, we talked a little bit about cloud earlier, but with the mandate to move to the cloud and meet some of these new FedRAMP requirements, how can agencies ensure security and scalability in their cloud environments?
I mean, when I was a government CIO, I would never have deployed a cloud system. It would be really rare to deploy a cloud system that wasn't FedRAMP compliant. OpenText gets that. It's not fast, it's not cheap, but we've invested a lot of time and effort into making our products FedRAMP compliant.
Right.
And we have a pretty good, healthy, deep, and broad set of products that are FedRAMP compliant. I think it stacks up pretty well against anybody. We have a content management that's tailored for government that's FedRAMP compliant. We have a low-code process automation tool that's also FedRAMP compliant. We have a cybersecurity application tool that's AI enabled. That's also on FedRAMP. We also have service management system and a portfolio manager for developers. All these are FedRAMP. So if you go to FedRAMP and look for OpenText, you'll see quite a bit there.
Right. That's awesome. And as we look to the future of this summit, but also, the federal health landscape as a whole, what are some of the things that you're excited for? Where do you see growth?
There's excitement. There's always excitement with disruption, and certainly this administration is leaning heavily on modern IT. That's really great. I do want to say my heart goes out to those folks that left in a sudden way. I've been a Fed. My wife's a Fed. You don't expect that to happen. So I wish those folks the best. Disruption's great, but sometimes, your heart goes out to people that got impacted, and some of my friends did.
Yeah, definitely. That's hard, but I appreciate everything that you're doing, and thank you for joining me to talk more about some of these developments. I look forward to seeing where it takes us. So thanks again.
Thanks, Sarah. Great to be here.